All right, everyone. Today we are talking about the Garmin Fenix 6X Pro versus the brand new Garmin Enduro.
That one is huge.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I am Ben with Run Slow to Run Fast. Today we are talking about the Garmin Fenix 6X Pro, and we're going to compare it to the Garmin Enduro, a brand new watch that Garmin just released yesterday. Has some interesting features that I want to talk about, and I'll give you a sense of which one might be best for you. So before we get going too far, be sure to take a minute to smash, whack, hit, press, push, whatever you want to do to that like button at the bottom. I really appreciate it. Also, subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. I put out a lot of content related to running gear, running gadgets, running advice, all those types of things. So if you want to stay tuned and up to date on those videos that I produce, make sure to like and subscribe. All right, let's dive into some of the comparisons between the Garmin Fenix 6X Pro and the Garmin Enduro. I do not have a Garmin Enduro with me. It was just released yesterday, and I was not privileged enough to be able to either purchase one or have one sent to me by the manufacturer, by Garmin. So I will give you my experience with the Garmin Fenix 6X Pro, which I have had for about a year, and give you some of the comparisons between the two. So the Garmin Fenix 6X Pro is one of their more robust watches on the Garmin line. It has been out for quite some time. It's been out since August of 2019, so about a year and a half or so. And it retails currently for $699. Again, that's the 6X Pro. So it's the Garmin Fenix 6. The X is the largest edition that they make of it. It's a 51 millimeter. And then the Pro means that it has maps and music and some of those types of things. So comparing that $699 price to the Enduro is an additional $100, so it's coming in at $799 currently. So we're going to talk about whether or not that added value is there for that extra $100. So talking about the weight of the two watches, with the Garmin Fenix 6X Pro, again, the largest of the three watches in the Fenix line, the watch casing itself is 66 grams on the standard model, and it is on the 51 millimeters. Again, that's the 6X Pro. So that is 66 grams for just the casing. Now, with the Enduro, Garmin is touting that it is a lightweight watch. Really, the actual casing of the watch, if you get the standard model, is the exact same. It's 66 grams. So you're really not saving much weight there. If you really want to save weight with the Enduro, the way to do it is to get the titanium model, which is 52 grams. That's saving you 14 grams of weight there. And then what's helping it be so lightweight is they are introducing and selling it with a nylon strap instead of the silicone strap, which comes in the standard Fenix line. So you do get some weight savings with that. In my opinion, if you really want that weight savings, just buy a nylon strap and put it on the Fenix, whatever model you have, for me, the Fenix 6X Pro. So next we'll talk about the actual screen size. With the 6X, you're getting 1.4 inches, and then you're getting the same size with the Enduro. Now, if you go in the Fenix line, if you go with the Fenix 6, just the standard model, or the S, you're getting just 1.2 inches, and I think that's a measurable difference. And the reason that I say that is I actually initially purchased just the Fenix 6 Pro. Again, that one's the 1.2 inches as opposed to the 1.4, and when I got the 6X Pro, when I upgraded, I could tell a noticeable difference. And there was much more screen space that you can use, and you can actually fit, when you're doing your running screen on it, you can fit 10 different data screens as opposed to 8. So there is a big difference there in the screen size, and you get that with the Enduro as well. So next, let's talk about the actual watch face material. So there's a few different materials that you can buy in the Fenix line. The most powerful of those being the Sapphire, which is very scratch resistant, a very strong watch face that you can purchase. I got just the standard model in mine, and then I put a tempered glass screen protector on top of it that I got off of Amazon for about $5, and that has worked really well for me. So no issues on that. The minor difference that you get with the Enduro is you get power glass, as opposed to in the Fenix line, you get the Corning Gorilla Glass. So the real difference is there. I did some research on both of those. Really, there's not much of a difference between the Corning Gorilla Glass and the Power Glass that is offered the Enduro. So minor difference there, but really not much. You're going to get pretty similar performance out of both of those. Talking about the pixels of the watch, you actually get the exact same thing on the Fenix 6X Pro as you do on the Enduro, and that is 280 by 280 pixels on both watches. Now, one of the distinguishing differences between the Fenix line and the Enduro is that the Fenix line actually comes with maps. Most of the Fenix watches do come at least with that option that you can get maps on it. With the Enduro, you actually don't get that option, which is somewhat confusing to me because they're touting the Enduro as more of a endurance watch, Enduro. So you would think that they, if you're going out on long treks and you're needing that additional battery life that you get with the Enduro, that you would want maps as well. But for some reason, Garmin opted not to include maps in the Enduro. I will say with the maps that I've never really used it on my watch in a real sense. So when I'm out on the trails or doing big adventures, I generally have a set aside route that I want to go, and I don't need to check the maps to understand where I need to go next. So for me, it hasn't been a big selling point now that I've had the watch for some time. So maybe that's why Garmin opted to leave it out of the Enduro. But one would think that with the Enduro, it's kind of designed for people that are going to be out for a very long time, thus the battery life that can last for days and weeks. So it's odd to me still that they did not include that in the Enduro. But again, for me personally, I have not used the maps hardly at all. But I think it's a good safety feature for me in case I do get lost or in case I take on a big adventure where I may need to navigate some while I'm out. Now, one of the major differences between the Fenix line and the Enduro is that with the Enduro, solar charging comes standard with it. So on the Enduro, you actually have a little bit of a bezel around the watch where you get almost full solar power, and then you've got backlit on the actual watch face where you get some additional solar charging from that as well. So you're going to get much better battery life in the Enduro, at least the standard model. Now you can purchase the Fenix models in solar as well, but they're much more expensive right now. I believe with the 6X, it's $1,100. Again, the Enduro is $799, so much less expensive, and you're going to get that additional solar battery power, which is going to give you a lot longer battery life in the different modes that you have. So again, it's more designed for someone that's spending a long day out or even several days out where they want that battery life that's going to be able to go on. And again, you're going to be able to soak up the power from the sun in that solar and be able to use that watch for a very long time. I will put some of the comparisons because with the battery life, they vary so greatly between the different modes that you're in. I'll put the comparisons up on the screen so that you can see those now. But you'll notice that, at least in the standard GPS battery life, you get a little bit more with the Enduro. You get 70 hours in standard GPS, and if you're using solar, you get up to 80. And with the Fenix 6X or the 6X Pro, which I have, you get 60. So there is a little bit of additional battery life there with the Enduro if you're using that battery life. But really where you start to see those gains is when you're in the different modes, kind of a standby mode on the Enduro, where you can get multiple days or even weeks of battery life out of the Enduro when you're in that solar mode. So if it's not eating up the battery so quickly, you actually, you have a much smaller burn rate with the Enduro, so you can really stretch out the life of the watch and the battery for much longer because you do have that solar that's charging the Enduro. Another feature that I think is somewhat important to some people is the Enduro does have twice as much memory as the Fenix line does, the 6X in particular. So the Enduro has 64 gigabytes of memory, whereas the storage on the Fenix 6X is 32 gigabytes. So you do get twice as much storage on the Enduro. Megabytes, gigabytes, mega gigabytes. Now, one of the cool new features that is introduced with the Enduro is the UltraRun setting. Now, with the UltraRun setting, one of the coolest parts about it is that it does have a rest timer. So the time that you spend at aid stations when you're stopping, I think that's a really cool feature that can help ultrarunners become better ultrarunners and more efficient in their time when they're racing. So I really love that new feature in the Enduro. Another cool feature that was introduced with the Enduro that is not currently on the Fenix line is that it comes with Trail VO2Max. Now you might be thinking, what is Trail VO2 Max? I think what Garmin's idea behind Trail VO2 Max is that they're trying to adjust your VO2 Max reading according to the terrain that you're on. So if you're doing something that's very steep uphill and or downhill, it's going to adjust your VO2 Max based off of that. The way that I think about that is similar to Garmin's gap or grade adjusted pace. So if you're going uphill, let's say you're going uphill and you do an 11-minute mile, well, on the Strava app, it will tell you that your grade adjusted pace is something like 8 minutes. So basically saying if you were on flat land, your pace would have been 8 minutes. Same thing on downhill. If you're going downhill and your pace was 8 minutes, and you're probably going to go a little bit faster going downhill, so it may say that your grade adjusted pace was 10 minutes per mile or something like that. So I think that's what Garmin is trying to do with the Trail VO2 Max. Now, the actual data or the science with VO2 Max, your VO2 Max is not going to change whether you're on the trail or the road. The VO2 Max is one steady number. Now it may change up or down according to your fitness level, but it shouldn't change whether, you as a person, whether you're running on a flat trail or a hilly trail, your VO2 max is not going to be different between the two. But I think what it's trying to do is just give you some sense of, adjusting it based off of your terrain, so that if you're primarily a trail runner or hiker or whatever, that you have a better sense and reading of what your VO2 max is, that it's actually going to take that terrain into account for you and give you a better metric to be able to judge and train by. Now, finally, today we're going to talk about one of the things that for me at least, was a big selling point on the Garmin Fenix 6X Pro, specifically the Pro model, because the Pro model does have music. So onboard music storage. So for me, I do not like taking my phone on the majority of my runs unless I'm on my long run, which is generally on Saturdays. So the Enduro does not offer any type of music storage. So to me, that's kind of a deal breaker. I generally will listen to music while I'm running on the roads, not very much on the trail. I do a little bit on the trail because I have some aftershocks, which are open ear headphones. So it doesn't actually cover your ear so you can hear your surroundings. So I think for me, at least, that in and of itself is a deal breaker, especially when you consider that the Enduro is an additional $100. So who is the Enduro for? In my mind, I think the Enduro is for someone that is going or planning to spend multiple hours, days, even weeks outside in some type of adventure. So you're going to need that additional battery life. So I think that's the main crux of it. When I look at it, it seems to me like Garmin is trying to compete a little bit more with Coros, which is starting to make a bigger dent, especially in the endurance world, especially trail running, ultra running, those type of things. I think that Coros is starting to steal a little chunk of Garmin's market share, and they wanted to come out with something that is going to compete. Now, obviously, with Garmin recently in introducing solar into many of their watches, I think that was a huge leap forward for them and allows them to compete more closely with Coros, because the Coros watches, most of them generally have 30 days or more of standard use battery life on the watches. So Coros has really taken a dent, I think, out of Garmin's market share, and they're trying to compete a little bit more with that. So I think with the Enduro, that may chip into that a little bit. But again, at the price point that they're charging at $799, I think it's a little bit steep for what this watch offers, at least in comparison to the Fenix 6X Pro. Now, the Enduro, based off of what I've told you, it may be a good match for you and a good watch for you. But for me, I think the Fenix 6X or X Pro, or really any of the Fenix line, is a little bit more feature rich when you look at what it offers currently. Now, Garmin may be planning to add additional features to the Enduro that may make it more of a selling point. But for me, at least at this time, I am glad that I'm sticking with the 6X Pro. And if I had the two watches to choose from today, I think I would still choose the Fenix 6X Pro. So hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch all the way to the end. I know it was a bit of a longer video, but hopefully it's helpful for you if you're trying to decide between two watches to buy in the Garmin lineup. Thanks so much again for watching. Be sure to run slow to run fast, and have a great one.